Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And oh my gosh, we're going to have such a fun conversation today. We just spent 45 minutes in our pre-chat, and every time I think I need to start recording at the start because we talked about so many great things. But we're really going to be talking about things that business owners absolutely positively need to know from a legal perspective. And we've touched on that before on various other interviews, but we're going to go in depth about this because we want to make sure that your business is safe and protected and able to go forward for a gazillion years. So please join me in welcoming Sharon Tasman to our program today. Welcome, Sharon. How are you?
I am doing great, Deb. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, it was so fun talking to you. Matter of fact, I think the last thing we said was, okay, we kept saying we have to get to the interview part of the podcast. So.
Well, and for those of you who are just listening, we are both redheads. So that's probably part of this, right? You know, sisters from another Mr., mother, whoever, whatever.
And we're very shy.
Yes.
And introverted, and we hate to talk.
Right. I know, sad things. But yeah, we're going to have so much fun. So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this.
Perfect.
So Sharon L. Tasman is the founder and partner of HTBiz Law. With over 30 years of legal experience, she started when she was 4, and an over $6 billion deal portfolio. After nearly 2 decades at one of the world's largest law firms and at a global pharmaceutical company, Sharon founded HTBiz Law to provide clients of all sizes with big law experience coupled with the personal attention of a boutique law firm. Sharon represents clients from startups to multinational companies in the areas of technology and IP, consulting, contracts, and other business issues, and life sciences. As a 40-plus female entrepreneur herself, Sharon has a special interest in helping women and members of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color, which is BIPOC, community start and grow businesses. Combining her years of legal experience with real-world technical experience and a first-hand business background, Sharon is uniquely suited to understand all of the different demands and obstacles that solo and small businesses face and how to overcome them. So again, Sharon, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. And, you know, that really is a driving mission for me. Yes, for 30 years, I've worked with big corporate clients in the tech and biospace and consulting services field. But for the last 5 or 6 years, in addition to that, it's almost like I have a practice within my practice. I really want to help women and members of the BIPOC community build and grow businesses and understand that legal doesn't have to be scary. In fact, if you're a small business, it is your business best friend. Women and members of the BIPOC community start more than 800 businesses a day.
Wow.
And of the businesses started by women, more than 62% are started by women over 40. So, and yes, I didn't really start obviously when I was 4, but might have been a few years older than that.
Yeah, not yet.
I will admit to being over 40. I think the curly hair helps me look closer to 40 than my actual age. But I know what it's like. It is harder, but it's not, no matter how old you are, it's not too late and you're not too old. So if people are making the leap, especially with everything that's going on the last couple of years, whether first it was COVID and now other factors, people are leaving corporate world or government jobs, and more people are starting their own businesses, in part sometimes because they have to, because the job is no longer there.
Right. You're in the DC area. So
Mostly in the DC area, but also AI is also starting to remove jobs. Jobs are being moved overseas. It's the economy is changing globally.
yes.
And people are changing with it. It's becoming a lot more of a service economy. Production jobs are being taken over by robots. So more people are becoming self-employed or small businesses and service providers. And I just really want women to have the leg up. Like you said, I've had my business now for a decade. And even when I was in big law, I could see the extra toll it takes on women. We are expected to be the ones who take care of the house, the home, on top of our full.
Bring home the bacon and cook it and all of that.
Exactly.
Like the old commercial used to say.
Right. And women still make 78 cents on the dollar, all other factors equal. So I really do want to help women level the playing field. And having represented clients in huge deals, the whole range of deals, having the right contract, it makes a huge difference. And, big companies can afford to absorb more risk than small businesses. So my goal is to help people get off on the right foot and understand that it's your business best friend.
Right. Yeah. And the important thing is that you do it at the start rather than trying to play catch up. Because
then there's some things we can fix, but the reality is particularly in the business world, there are just some things that they're like an unringable bell.
Right.
And we'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about protecting your assets. Some things are counterintuitive, like copyright law. And I often see consultants desperate for business, sign whatever's put in front of them and not realize they've given away all of the assets they own.
Yeah. And way back, over 20 years ago, when I decided to start my business, Wise Women Communications, I happened to be working as a lobbyist and in Colorado. It was great fun, but it was kind of like, knowing how sausage is made. You're like, oh, ew, okay. But the partners there and several of the other people were attorneys. And so when I decided to go out on my own, God bless them, they supported me. And they said, here are things that you need to do. But one of the first things that somebody told me, and obviously I still remember it to this day, was, is it a hobby or is it a business? And if it is a business, then you need to treat it like a business.
Yes.
And, and she said things like, okay, first you need to register. And I love this. I mean, this was long enough ago that Al Gore had not really invented the internet yet. And so I had to trot my little self down to the Colorado Secretary of State's office. And I went in and I paid my $30 or whatever. And we're going to talk about, how you should register. But, I gave them my $30 and they gave me literally a cash register receipt. It's like an inch by 2 inches, right? It said, paid $30. And I just looked at him and they said, next. And I said, that's it. I mean, I wanted trumpets to blare and confetti and all of that. And they said, yeah, you're a business.
And today it is still, well, it's even simpler. And
Right.
but there isn't fanfare. So you're absolutely right. And the partners gave you great advice that setting up your business right is the very first step and it's arguably the most important. But before I say that, I do have to make one comment about Al Gore and the internet. Al Gore didn't invent the internet. My brother was one of the people who helped create it.
Cool. I love it.
The internet, as we know it today, was originally 5 smaller regional networks. And my brother designed and built and installed the gateways that allowed communication between two of the original networks. And that was actually back in the 80s.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm very proud of my brother. And I come from a tech family. This is why I also do tech law. And what I do now, one of the things I love about what I do is I've been a programmer. I own a business. I've been a lawyer. What I do now, I like mentoring. I train junior associates at the big law firm. It's blended everything I do in one. But going back to the most important thing is setting your business up like a business.
Right.
When people start businesses, they often just start under their own name.
Right.
They're like,
and they say, write me a check.
write me a check.
Had
And
to
they
be cash.
they don't know, they don't have the confidence that they're going to succeed. They're like, oh,
Right.
I'll become a
It's
former
a side gig.
Right. But the reality is for anyone who's listening, if you don't form some legal entity, whether it's a limited liability company, which is the easiest, and we can talk more about that, or you become incorporated, if you do not have a legal structure, there is no difference under the law between you as a business and you as a person.
Right.
So if you on business gets sued or makes a mistake,
There goes your house.
exactly, you personally are on the hook for 100% of the debts of the business.
Right.
And if you've worked really hard, you've maybe been an employee for 10 or 15 years, you're making the leap to give yourself a better life, your family a better life, to lose all of your money because you didn't set up as a business doesn't make sense. Now, that is one of the things that you can go back and fix. But setting up as a business is so easy.
Yes, it really is a click here and a click there on the internet.
You do not need a lawyer to do it for you. You do not have to pay someone to do it for you. I actually have a free LLC file it yourself guide. And I've cobbled together the filing offices for every state in the United States.
Because they are different.
Correct. Limited liability companies are created under a particular state law, but they are applicable and valid under all states.
Yes.
So
I can be in Georgia and still be a Colorado LLC.
Correct. I am a Maryland limited liability company, HTBiz Law. I founded it as a Maryland LLC, but I have clients all over the world.
Right.
We have clients in South Africa and Switzerland and England, but we're still all under Maryland law.
Right.
All you have to do is go to the online now filing office. It's basically one or two sides of a page or screens. You answer factual questions, your name, the business address. It'll ask for a resident agent, which really just means who is the person authorized to get mail in the name of the business.
Yeah.
Which can be you if you're the owner, and a general description of the purpose of your business. The hardest thing is the general description of your business, the purpose of your business. Because people want to say, oh, I'm setting up my business to be a financial consultant. And they will say as the purpose, financial consultant. Don't do that. You want to say financial consultant, comma, and any other activity which a limited liability company may lawfully do in the state of insert state where you're filing.
Because you do not want to limit what you can do.
Exactly. You never know where your business will go. You never know, are you going to add a line of business? You want to make sure that you are covered. And then you can do it all under that one LLC.
Right. And you might be, say, a landscaper, and you're thinking that's all I'm going to do. And then somebody says, hey, can you do some drywall for us? Cool. And so, yeah, by having that statement in there, you can say, sure, I can do drywall. I can do concrete. I can do whatever.
Whatever your skill allows. I still believe that people should not do things they don't know how to do.
Yeah.
In general, which is why my law firm, we only do technology, business / consulting / contracts, and life sciences. I'm not a real estate attorney. I'm not a divorce attorney.
Right. You do not want to do those things.
I don't want to do those things, but not only that, I don't know how to do them well. I know who does, and
that's the thing. You can say,
I research people out, but I don't do what you do well. That's also one of the keys to success. Do what you know how to do. Be honest with yourself about your abilities. Stretch, yes. Do something you have no idea how to do, a little risky.
Right.
But filing the LLC, you'll then pay a filing fee, which range between $100 and $300, depending on the state you're in.
Right. I paid $30, but that was 25-ish years ago. So inflation.
You hit submit, and fanfare does not happen.
I know.
You just
sad.
You'll get an email confirmation.
Right.
And eventually you'll get a certificate by email. You may have to pay a little extra if you want the paper copy, but you are a business at that point. Technically, that has set you up as an LLC. And I do believe that anyone starting a business should, at a minimum, set themselves up as an LLC. And the truth is, at the beginning, that is more than enough.
Right. And again, that's limited liability. Those are the key words.
Limited liability company. Exactly. So for the cost of $300, you are protecting potentially your house and all your investments.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
To me, that's a win-win.
Yeah. Do you want your kids' college fund to be protected? Whatever it is.
Now, there are some other steps you should take. One, because part of the value of a limited liability company is it sets up a black box around your business. In the corporate world, it's called your corporate veil. Yes, that is a little legal term, but it has meaning. It is basically the curtain behind which your business operates. If you operate your business illegally or improperly, which includes using it as your personal piggy bank, a creditor, i.e. if somebody wronged and wants to go after you, can, quote, pierce the corporate veil.
Right, because you expanded outside of it.
Well, not only that, it's you didn't follow the basic rules, which is operate your business as a business.
In that box.
In that box. It is that simple. What does it mean to operate your business as a business? Operate within what you said your purpose was. And if you have been listening and you picked and any other activity which a limited...
You can pretty much add whatever you want.
You're good. You want to get a business checking account.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And that was the second best advice somebody gave me. They said, you need a separate bank account. And they said, and more importantly, get it in a different bank than your personal accounts. Well, the only reason they said it's more difficult to commingle the funds. You know, you look at the credit card and it says Chase as opposed to Wells Fargo, right? But yeah, they say
if that
have a separate account. Yeah.
But get a business checking account, get a business credit card. All your expenses should be paid out of the business accounts.
Yes.
All of your income should be deposited into the business account. You do not deposit it in your personal account. You deposit in the business account, and then the business pays you.
Now, what about when you're first starting up and you're having to use your personal funds to start it?
So this is where the next thing you should have but don't have to have comes into play, which is an LLC, limited liability company, operating agreement.
Okay.
It is essentially agreement between you and the business.
Okay.
Or the business and you, where in this document, you are writing your own rules of the road for your business. If you don't have one, whatever your state's general business laws are, apply.
Okay.
But you can write around that. And you're also writing around it in putting in important business obligations in. Is it just you? Is it you and somebody else?
Okay.
Do you have an officer? Do you give yourself a title? In your operating agreement, you can declare that typically as the LLC, you're the managing member, but you can also say, I'm the president.
President, founder, yeah.
I'm the founder. You can give yourself a title. You can decide how often you'll pay yourself. You can decide what % of revenue you'll leave in the business and what % you'll pay yourself. You can also take credit as an initial capital contribution. Yes, that sounds lawyer, for all of those upfront expenses.
Right.
And usually it's in the first 3 to 6 months of expenses before even you file.
Right.
You can count those, but this way you get credit for making a contribution to the business. And once you open that checking account, you do want to take some of your own money and put it in, give yourself founding, starting funds.
Okay.
So that you can pay your expenses while you're generating revenue out of the business.
Right.
And again, in the limited liability company, you declare how much you're putting in. And if you're operating the business correctly, you can declare in the operating agreement that your contribution is your maximum liability.
Ah, okay. So then if something happens, you're on a hook for $500 or whatever.
Or typically you're going to put a few thousand in.
Right. Yeah, because it's just, costs by the time you buy computers and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, you're probably into, for a little bit more.
Right. The operating agreement is, and if you have intellectual property, if you have tools or techniques that you have created, a brand that you have created, and you assign it all to the LLC, you also take credit for that.
Yes.
So it's physical and financial assets and even virtual assets you can get credit for.
Right.
You also, in the operating agreement, can do succession planning. Nobody likes to think out succession planning.
You get hit by a bus, what happens?
Yes. So you can say the business winds down, the business gets assigned, this other member of the business gets it. But the beauty is, it's like having a will for your business.
Yes.
Nobody
Your
likes-
family is not going to have to think, what am I doing?
Correct. But it's also protects your clients because so I'm a lawyer. I have, if I die, who takes over?
Right.
To at least wind it down so my clients aren't left
Right.
on the hook, or not on the hook, but in the lurch, because what do? We may have had projects ongoing. So it is smart business to plan for the future,
Right.
the good and the bad. Nobody wants to think about the bad. It's like nobody wants to fill out a will, but you need to. It's good advice.
Right.
And then the other thing is get business insurance.
Yep.
You may be operating your business out of your house, but typically your homeowner's insurance will not cover business.
Now, I have an umbrella policy. And I talked to, my insurance agent and several others, and the way mine works, and hopefully it's set up right, is it covers the business, and it's $1 million. I think it's like $1 million or something. I mean, it's even though you think about it and you're like, really, somebody's going to sue you for $1 million? Well, somebody just sued the NFL for $100 million because of Shedeur Sanders.
My father told me to get an umbrella insurance policy on a personal level, even when I worked for a law firm.
Yeah.
And I've had one since I was 28. And I hope I do not offend anybody with what I'm about to say, that I say it with respect. My father says it is the what if you hit a pregnant non-insurance policy.
Yeah.
You don't think it will ever happen.
Right. Well, and my umbrella policy also covers the fact that I am a board member on several other organizations. And now they should have director's insurance. Do they not? I mean, I was a board member for a nonprofit, and we got sued, and they named every single one of us, in the suit. And, now fortunately nothing actually ever came of it, but my umbrella policy would have been what covered that, as opposed to my homeowners, my personal checkbook, any of those things. And I think it's like, $300-ish a year, folks. Again, it is well worth that investment to protect yourself.
And depending on what field you're in, you might also want to get something called errors and omissions insurance.
Right.
If you have a physical building, you probably want general commercial liability.
Right, because people can fall down, they can, all those various things.
But, so yes, we're talking about the LLC, filing for the LLC, you can do yourself. The filing fee will be $100 to $300. Getting business insurance, maybe it's $500. I have an umbrella policy, and I have E&O insurance, and I have legal malpractice insurance, because I've worked hard to build my assets. I like my house. I'm protecting my husband as well, because he lives here. So I believe in insurance.
Yes.
It is peace of mind. And that is one of the most important things. So all told, for your operating agreement, you might want a lawyer to draft it for you, or get a really good template. But buy the template. Please do not download the thing you find. I'm making air quotes for the
Yes.
people who can't see me, on the internet. And we're actually, when we get to IP and assets, this will become a little more apparent. When you borrow something from the internet, people do not understand the difference between I can find it on the internet.
Yes. I said a little thing called copyright.
Is it?
Yes.
Yes. So copyright, if somebody else has written it and not you, unless it has the words public domain
Right.
stamped all over,
They own it.
they own it. So if you borrow their LLC operating agreement, you will do two things. One, you will be committing copyright infringement, which is theft, and you can be sued for this. And two, I guarantee you that if all you do is change your name, you are breaching the LLC operating agreement the second you set it up. Yes.
Right.
So,
And graphics are the same way. And
Anything you find on the internet belongs to somebody else.
yes, you can't say, ooh, I like that image. I'm going to use that as my corporate logo, or I'm going to put it on my website. I mean, I got a call one time and it was a client and they said, we just got a letter from an attorney saying we owe $100,000. I mean, this is a very small business because we used images that belong to so-and-so. Now, the so-and-so that they belong to is a very large entity. And I said, okay, here's my suggestion from a layperson. Get yourself an attorney. I mean, that really was. And I said, but now the next thing you do, get those images off your website right now. Take them down. Do whatever, get them off of, if they're on your business cards are now trash. Stop using that. Because that will be the first thing the attorney will say. And I said, so just, go ahead and do it. And I said, and they ended up, doing a mea culpa. And, and the other entity, I mean, they just wanted them to not do it. Yeah. And so they did. But that doesn't always happen.
No. And sometimes people are more stubborn than you think. So I have an amusing similar anecdote about myself, but I actually had a license to use an image on my website. I had the license. I made sure I saved the written license, printed the written license.
Oh, yes.
And, Deb, what you're talking about happens, and businesses that are listening or people that are thinking of starting it, there are companies out there that their sole business is to search on behalf of companies or artists for their images, photo, artwork, to find illegal uses of it and go after them. And they make money based on how much they collect. So I actually got an email to a personal email address because they clearly did not realize I was an attorney and one who uses copyright. Oops. And they said that I am violating their copyright of this artist and that they expect a payment of $20,000. And even as an attorney, my first reaction was, you have that moment where you're biting your nails.
Right.
But then I went, wait a minute.
I
do not use anything that I don't have a license for, or that is common, true public domain. Like, folks, if you want to do a logo, you can go on Canva. You can create a subscription. There are free graphics.
There's so many things now.
So many things now that you can legally get. Do that. So whatever you'll pay for Canva, like $10 a month for a good subscription. Great. We all swear by Canva as well. But I wrote back and I said, well, dear name of company, I'll leave them nameless. That in fact may be, an artist that you represent's photo. However, I have a license to use that image. Yes. Here is the license. Here is the copy of the license. Here is the terms of the license. Here is my use clearly within the terms of the license. And oh, by the way, I'm a copyright attorney.
Right. And what you didn't put in there was now go away and leave me alone.
Well, but what you were saying about taking it down, but I still said, while I know for legal certainty that I am not violating your client's copyright because they failed to tell you that they offered it through Shutterstock.
Yeah, wherever, yeah.
Right, through Shutterstock. In a gesture of goodwill, I will remove the image. All they wrote back was, we're sorry.
Yeah.
I never heard from them again.
Right.
But make sure that you understand intellectual property rights, at least to some degree.
Right. So, and let's expand on that and talk trademark. Okay. Because that's the other step that you need to do. Now, I have 2 trademarks. One is the Business Power Hour. I have a fabulous trademark attorney because I started doing it myself and went, whoa, that's way too hard.
So unlike copyright, and I do want to talk a little more about copyright because there's some issues with that. For copyright, I can teach anyone how to file their own copyrights in one 30-minute session and then go off and do it yourselves. I do not need me again. Trademarks, you absolutely need an attorney.
Yes. Yeah. And I was thinking, I'm a smart person. I can do this. And so I made the initial filing, and then the federal government,
you got an office action.
Yes, came back and said 4 words, the Business Power Hour, are too common. Therefore, we need yada, 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 yada. And I went, okay, no,
Generally descriptive is probably the words they use.
that is probably pretty close to it. And and of course, my thought was, because I know just enough about this to be dangerous, if I did not do this and someone else did, they could come back to me and say, take down all your content.
So you are half right.
Okay.
With trademark law, like with copyright law, for copyright law, the author, meaning the person who created the copyrighted material, instantly has all copyrights without doing anything else. There are other steps you should do
to make sure.
But the person who created it is the copyright holder immediately upon creation.
Right.
With trademark, the person who used it first in interstate commerce wins.
Right.
Now, if you have only used it in a small regional area and you never filed for a trademark application, which gives you guaranteed nationwide rights, and somebody else used it somewhere else, they might be able to challenge you later. But for the people who are listening, if you have created a brand, start putting a little TM on and then go file your application.
Right.
First use is when the key is. But yeah, somebody couldn't come 5 years later, even if you didn't file for a trademark. If you have been consistently using it in interstate on a nationwide basis for 5 years, and they come later, they're not going to necessarily win and get you to have to stop using your trademark. But it makes it much harder for you to stop them.
Yes. Yeah. And so it was worth it to me to make that investment. And I actually started the process during COVID. So that was really entertaining because the first thing we got was, okay, there's delays. Okay.
There's a huge backlog now.
Yes. Oh yeah. And all of that stuff.
If you file now, even if it takes 2 years, which is about how long it takes for it to register, you still have, when you file your application, you get that first use in interstate commerce date as your date. Right. It takes them 2 years.
Yeah. Because it's not your fault that, there's not enough people there. And it's funny because I've only had one person tell me that I couldn't use the name. And I sent back and I said, well, actually, I have the trademark on it, and, never heard from them again. But there have been
outlooks.
Yeah, I know. And I think there have been 3 times where, because I have a Google alert, right? And so it looks and it finds the use of, and folks, you got to put it in quotes, the business power hour, because otherwise it's going to find all those 4 separate terms. And so, the alert is looking for those 4 terms linked together. And I found it 3 other times. And, so my first email is, to my attorney to say, oh. And one of the things I love about her is she says, you be the good guy first and just say, hey, notice that you're doing this. And so my email to them says, hi, Betty Boop, notice that you're using the term, the business power hour for whatever it is, and it has to be close, it's always been another podcast, right? And then I say, I am the registered owner of that trademark. Here is my trademark number because I have that fancy piece of paper. And I say, it's something, hopefully we can come to a reasonable whatever. I mean, she told me what to say, and then she said, go from there. If they, and the first time I got back this, was somebody who, God bless him, he was in his 80s, and his attorney contacted me, very apologetic, and said, we totally understand. We have stopped. It has been taken off our website. And then he said, we had some podcasts from 5 years ago. Do we need to go back and change those? And I said, I am giving you permission to not. And since I was dealing with the attorney, that was because I didn't want this, but the other 2 times, have gone a little bit more rough. And so then when they were snarky to me, and one was really snarky, I mean, he called me an idiot, which I'm like, seriously, dude? And so, I forward to my attorney, and then I pay her, right, the fee to then say, this is a cease and desist. And it sounds nasty. It sounds snarky, right? It sounds mean. I mean, 80 years old. I was telling this guy he couldn't do this. But
your business, it's not personal, right? It's not personal. It's
1,000 episodes that I don't want anybody getting confused. And I was actually really surprised when it was available. I was dumbfounded that nobody had ever applied for it. But yeah, when you have your intellectual property that you have spent an hour, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours developing, you don't want somebody else, either accidentally or on purpose, using that. And so that's why you do a trademark. And I tell people, your podcast name, your business name, all these various things. Again, it's worth that investment to make sure that somebody doesn't take it from you.
Absolutely. So the cost to file a trademark, including the filing fees, and engaging an attorney to do an application for you and prosecute it, it's going to be a couple $1,000s. But if it's your brand identity,
right,
you don't want to get to the point where you're the one who gets the cease and desist letter,
yes,
because you didn't search. And that's the other thing is, folks, when you're coming up with your business name,
Google it.
Google it. Google it and go to www.uspto.gov. Click on the tab
as trademarks,
and click on search a trademark database.
Right.
Put your name in there and you'll see if something comes up. If the exact mark comes up for the exact same goods and services, stop. You're done.
Yeah, you're done. Yes, that's stop sign gave you.
Before you spend money on the business cards, the website, the logo, stop. Right. If something comes up that's close in the same services, you're done. If something comes up that's similar in wholly different services, you might be okay.
Right.
Talk to a trademark attorney, because trademarks serve as a source of brand identification. Some marks are stronger, some marks are weaker. The Apple mark is like one of the strongest marks in the world.
Yes.
Ever used. For anything.
Yeah, Kleenex. Everybody always wants Kleenex is a trademark word, folks.
Yes, and this is the other thing for people who, we're getting more into trademarks than I thought we would, but for people who have a trademark, you must use it as a trademark.
Yes.
And every once in a while, you will see an ad in the newspaper by Xerox Corporation, which says things that you may do on one of our photocopying machines. Copy, duplicate, print. Things you may not do, Xerox. Because the owners of trademark brands have the obligation to use it as a brand. Right. We're getting, I think, a little more esoteric.
But I do want to know, because you work internationally and we have international listeners. Yes. So briefly, first of all, do other companies have something similar like
countries?
This?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And in fact, you can use your U.S. trademark to file foreign trademarks in a similar that once yours is registered.
Okay.
So if you are a U.S. only company, it's fine to just stay in the U.S.
Right.
But if you are a global company, so when I have pharmaceutical clients where they expect the drugs to be marketed around the world, you better believe we're filing for the trademark on that name around the world. And we do searches around the world. But for that kind of work, I actually work with an attorney who does nothing but trademarks.
Right. Because it gets really complicated.
It is. And it is not necessarily fully compatible with what I do as more counseling and contracts. But the other thing for IP that really, really matters, IP, intellectual property, for small business is the concept of copyright. Copyrights cover reports, drawings, your algorithms, computer code, software, tools, techniques, macros in a spreadsheet. You've got big tools. If you have created something, you become the copyright owner instantly upon creation. But that problem of people think it's on the internet so they can use it? Yes, you own it immediately. Put a copyright notice on it.
Yes. The bottom of your website, copyright 2025, Wise Women Communications.
Correct. But also get in the habit of putting it on the footer of every page of every one of your handouts or materials for sale. I put it in a disclaimer at the end of every one of my social media videos. It's typically also in a caption because it helps you make it obvious to the world.
Right.
That not only you own it, but you're claiming it and you don't want people to use it.
Right.
But where people don't understand is that copyright law is a little bit counterintuitive. And this is hugely important if you have people helping you in your business that are not legal W-2 employees. The copyright automatically goes to the author, person who created the work. And it stays with them unless they legally prove the rights. Now, if they are your employee and what they have done is in the scope of your business, yes, it's yours. I say employee, I mean W-2, you pay taxes and all the benefits. It does, by operation of law, move to the company. But if you have an independent contractor, a freelancer, your friend who is helping you out over beer, you do not own it. You could pay someone $1 million to write software for you. It is done on a handshake. If it is not done in writing, if the writing does not say, and we hereby assign, no matter how much you have paid them, you do not own it. Now, I have seen this come back to bite large companies that should know better, where somebody at the very beginning helped create the software or the app. They were friends. They were never employees. Nothing was ever
We paid them in beer.
paid them in beer, or they even maybe paid them in money. But when they went to sell that app, or when a VC investor came in to do an investment in the company, they got paid off millions of dollars. And I know this because I used to represent VC companies where I would be the person who would go in and dig to find the chain of title. So if you are working with somebody, you must do it in writing. They must assign to you. This word has legal meaning. One of the things I suggest is everyone does their own IP audit or content audit. Take a look at all of those tools that you use in your business. The first question you ask is, did I create them? Great. The first presumption is they're yours. Did I create them while working for somebody else in the scope of my employment? If the answer there is yes, well, it's not yours anymore.
Yes, you don't get to put it and you don't on your LinkedIn profile and claim that it's yours.
No. You may wholly recreate it because copyright covers the actual writing, not the idea, but you can't use the exact thing. But here's the important one. Did someone create it for you or with you? That's when you have to check. Were they an employee? Were they a contractor? Was it under a contract? We can fix that. If somebody did something for you and they didn't assign it then, that is one of the bells we can unring. And you want to unring it as fast as possible. Because before, the more value it becomes, the more they get paid off. If they were friends, maybe they'll just sign it. You'll do it for $10. Just make it consideration, a legal term, meaning they're giving, say, God something. But we can fix it. But people don't understand that if they're just working with somebody or they've got a freelancer and the freelancer creates it, if there's no contract that assigns the IP, it hasn't moved. So please make sure that you check it, but also have the copyright notice. I suggest now that people put a copyright notice in the footer of every document on every page. And here's why. You have this great white paper that you created or report that you created, or, I have contract templates that I've created that I sell. I've got my copyright notice in the footer of every page because these originally, when copyright first came into existence, people only had physically printed books. You'd have one copyright notice on the other side of the front cover. All you needed to do. Nobody was ripping apart the book to give two pieces of it to somebody else. So the one copyright notice was enough. Then you had the Kinko's cases where professors were, in fact, photocopying pages of books and giving them out. That was the first.
We just wanted to use chapter 2.
Exactly. And they lost. They all lost. Professors all lost. But now you have the internet. Now you have PDFs. It is, and screenshots and phones where you can just click a screenshot. In my opinion, a copyright notice just in the cover is not enough. Put it in the footer of every page. Is it a guarantee someone won't wipe out the copyright notice? No. But does it increase the odds? Yes. Will it maybe make someone who receives it stop and think?
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
And if you've got something really valuable,
Mhm.
unlike trademark law, where you really need an attorney and it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s, it will cost you about $55 to get a federal copyright registration. You are already the copyright owner, but for $55, and you can do this yourself online at www.copyright.gov, or if somebody wants, I can walk you through it once and then go off and do it yourself. For filing for a federal copyright notice, copyright registration, you get some great benefits. You get access to the federal courts. They are better and faster. You get to ask for attorney's fees. So if you have to sue somebody because they have stolen your work and downloaded and made 10,000 copies of it, you're going to sue them.
Right.
And you want your attorney's fees covered. More importantly, and most importantly, you can get what is called statutory damages. If you do not have a federal registration, you have to prove your actual loss, which in this world of software and ephemeral things that are, it's hard to prove. But if you have a federal copyright registration, you can get statutory damages, which range, last check, from $500 to $30,000 per copy per work. So if somebody downloads it 1,000 times, it's 1,000 times
Whatever.
If you had a copyright notice, that free little copyright notice on your work, it makes it hard for somebody to say, oops, I
didn't know.
belong to somebody else, which means they were deliberate, which means willful.
Yes, they had looked for it and didn't find it.
No, willful copying under the copyright rules. If somebody willfully copied your copyrighted work, the damages get tripled.
Yes. If you ignore it, you're going to pay.
So if somebody, so now it could be all the way up to $100,000 of damages per copy for a filing fee of $55.
Right.
So do I put a copyright? Do I file for copyright in every one of my social media posts? No. I'm working on a book. It comes out next year. It's for women entrepreneurs. It's all the things they need to know, mindset, money, strategy to build a business. Will I file for a copyright registration on that book? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Without question.
And the one thing that is, of course, the big hot button right now that we're not going to talk about because we could talk about it for hours and hours is AI. And how much has that, and is that changing copyright, and
it is
who owns it, and all of that.
A short answer, by the way.
Okay.
The short answer is, for now, under copyright law, if AI created it all, it is not copyrightable. Okay. In order to get the copyright in something, it must have human creativity involved.
So go in and change words here and there.
So if AI created an outline for you and you use that outline to write the book, fine. Right. The book is copyrightable. But if you asked AI to write the entire novel
and then paste
nothing, it is not yours. Now, the laws may change as copyright, as AI becomes more sophisticated, but for now, there still has to be human authorship.
I love that. And I tell people, whatever you've done on AI, personalize it yourself.
As you should. I will tell you, AI makes a lot of mistakes. As an attorney, I wanted to see people like, I can just get AI to write my contract. Do not get AI to write your contract. Do not get AI to write your contract. For anyone who is listening, is a consultant or coach or any type of service provider. A client agreement, a services agreement, a coaching agreement, whether it is written for the benefit of a consultant or written for the benefit of a client, they will look the same about 80%.
Yes.
But there are some significant differences. If it's written for a client perspective, it will say, and the client owns everything and the consultant assigns it all.
Yes.
And it will not carve out any background work the consultant uses over and over. If you're a consultant, what makes you special is all the things you've done before that you use from project to project to project. You cannot assign those away. Assignment means I give up 100% of my rights.
Right. It is no longer mine.
Correct. So if you get AI to write you an agreement, and I asked AI to write an agreement for the benefit of a consultant, including for the IP. I said, not for the benefit of the client, for the benefit of the consultant. And I mean, it was a much longer prompt than that. They spit out a consulting agreement that assigned 100% of everything the consultant needed to the client.
Yeah, because it didn't understand.
Right. What that means is, and this runs into the situation where consultants, especially new business owners, you're so desperate to sign whatever the client puts in front of you to get the money in, you literally can give away all of your IP on your very first contract and technically and legally have nothing left to use ever again.
Right.
You must make sure that it carves out your background, your general knowledge. You have to keep ownership of that.
Right.
So AI cannot write contracts.
Right.
At least not yet.
Right. And speaking of contracts,
yes, don't do it.
Oh yeah. And as we're recording this, that's what and obviously it's going to change. But yeah, just kind of keep up on that. But yeah, the other thing, and we don't have a lot of time left, is we said that word several times, contracts. Folks, don't think a handshake or an okie dokie is going to cover you. I got bit by that one time many years ago when I was doing a new logo design for a client. And, we actually had kind of...
I'm searching for people who can't see.
Yes.
I know what's coming.
Because this was my friend. And all of those things, right? And so we did have a pretty... Now, I hadn't done it on the internet because your brother hadn't been busy yet. But I had a pretty basic contract. And so part of what we did was we designed 6, 5, 10, whatever, different concepts for the logo. The client liked one. She said, this is what we're going to use. Then we created, whatever she needed of that. 2 or 3 years later, she happens to send me a note. And this was the weird thing as to why she
didn't know what's coming.
And she said, my husband liked logo number 2 so well, he's now using it for his business. Just wanted to say thank you. I would have never found this if she hadn't sent this. I, of course, was up in arms. Oh my gosh, no, she didn't pay for it. Yada, yada, yada. So I sent, I responded and I said, oh, golly gee, that's nice, but he didn't pay for that. You only paid for the final version of the one you selected. So then I got a very nice response from him, who was a trademark attorney. Very politely said, you didn't say that in your contract. Therefore, you don't have any rights. But this very nice gentleman then said, what I will do for you is to help you with your contract. And so my contract is now very specific. Our concepts remain the property of Wise Women Communications. The logo that you buy becomes yours, or whatever it is.
The logo you.
Yes. And we're very specific about that. I also have contracts with my consultants who work for me because I had one who tried to steal a client one time. And it was really funny because, she had done a lot of work and was compensated for this and all that. But I get a call from them and they said, you got a problem. And I said, ooh. And they said, she contacted us and said, in the future, if you work directly with me, it will be much cheaper. She was enterprising little thing, right? Well, no.
Did your employment agreement with her or your...
I did not have an employment or a consulting agreement with her, right? Because we were friends. We shook hands.
So if it's not in writing, it never happened.
And so I went back to her, rightfully annoyed. She denied it. And I said, oh, I have the email you sent to them. So don't do that. But so now in my agreement with the folks who work for me, It is, again, clearly spelled out. Yeah. And it is because I'm protecting them and me. And I think that's the thing that we all get caught up in is, well, we want to be nice. Oh, we don't want to seem pushy.
You have to banish the good girl.
Yes. And we're protecting both sides by having written agreements.
So in any type of client consultant or partner relationship or vendor customer relationship, the single biggest source of all disputes is lack of clarity.
Yes.
It is not being pushy. It is not being rude to say, we need to cover it in the contract.
Right. Yeah. My contracts say for X number of dollars, you will get A, B, C, D. If you want E and F, the cost for that is.
Yes. And it protects you as the service provider. If you, especially women, it's sad, but it's true, right? Men will apply for the job, ask for the promotion. If they're 50 to 60% qualified, women wait till they're 90 to 100% qualified. It's the same thing. Women don't want to seem pushy because we're conditioned as society not to.
Right.
You have to get over that because it's business, not personal. Contracts protect you and your customer, vendor, whoever you're dealing with. But you have to make sure that you're not inadvertently giving away your power. You don't be nice and say, I will do the work until the client's satisfied. I see that. It's the worst sentence.
Yes, because 20 years from now, they're still going to say, I'm not satisfied.
Yes. People will come to me and they go, but they keep asking for all this other work. I'm like, you promised it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tell them you get X number of revisions.
Deb, I could have drafted it myself based on what you're saying.
Yeah, the thing is, I've learned the hard way.
You are doing all the right things, but you had to get burned to get there.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is what I'm desperately trying to do is everyone who's listening, these mistakes, and Deb, without me prompting, is telling you all the things that happened to her. I want you to not have these things happen to you.
Right. And it's easy, folks. It's easy. Is it going to cost a little bit? Yes. But that's okay. It saves you in the long run.
And, I work with clients. I offer my services to clients in a number of different ways because I want to meet them where they are. Some people have a little more money than time. They pay me and I do it all for them. Some people have a little more time than money. So I offer templates, which are still, I am sure, better than anything out there because they're based on my 30 years of experience. And it's not just, here's a template, goodbye. It's, here's your template. There are notes in the margins, what to change, why those provisions are there, how to negotiate it, and walk through videos where I literally go through the whole contract. About a quarter of the price, but you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves a little bit. But there's certain things that you have to do at the beginning. If you want to have your business succeed and not get into trouble, set up an LLC, use a copyright notice. If you're going to go talk to somebody, use a confidentiality agreement so they can't steal from you when you speak to them. There are businesses out there that are known for requesting proposals and meetings.
And saying, and we need samples.
Or hypothetical. How would you hypothetically do this? They are deliberately doing this to get the work for free.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a confidentiality agreement to protect you, which we can couch in a friendly email that says, you may look at this for the purpose of deciding whether or not to hire me. Otherwise, you can't use it.
Right. And
a client agreement. And those are the three things that are the absolute must-haves.
Right.
Not going to cost you $10,000.
And again, it's easy. You are not being mean. You're not being pushy. You're protecting everybody because that's the thing. You're protecting the client from not understanding, or thinking.
Clarity is king.
Yes.
Or queen in this.
Yes. And does it seem annoying? Yes. But it is so much easier in the long run. And I wish we still had times where we could just shake hands and say, this is what we're going to do.
But also, I think what people don't realize is particularly for the people who are the service providers who are listening, coaches, consultants, web designers, marketing services. If you have a template contract, you only have to invest in it one time.
Right.
You get a template services agreement, client agreement, coaching agreement. It's drafted from your perspective. You know what's in it. I believe in draft it once, use it 1,000 times. And if you have to change is the name of the client and the particular services you're going to do in the price. You can walk out of a pitch meeting, whether it's in person, a Zoom, or a phone call, and flip it to them in an hour. When they receive a well-written template that's clear and quick, you're short-circuiting the administrative time. You are getting to the revenue generation time faster.
Right. And again, you're coming across as professional, a business. At the very start, I said, is it a
You
hobby
probably can
or
charge
is it a
more.
business? Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, well, Sharon, oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. And we will definitely have you on again because I think
love
this is
to.
something that we need to continue discussing, especially maybe as AI and things change. But for somebody who's going, okay, I need to talk to Sharon, how do they find you and what are the services that you provide?
Okay. So my website is HTBiz Law, healthtechbusinesslaw.com/small business if you're a small business.
And we'll have that link in the show notes.
You can email me at contact@htbizlaw.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and YouTube at HTBiz Law. I'm the same name everywhere. And the company offers both done for you custom services and templates. And if you want a template, a consulting agreement, an operating agreement, you can get that on htbizlaw.com/small business. There's a link to a template shop. But we really try to meet you where you are. And there are a number of resources, which I know will be linked. I have a free guide to how to file your own LLC, and it has the URL for every LLC filing site in the country, all 50 of them.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, such great resources. And again, folks, we just want to make things easy for you as you're setting up your business, or maybe you're going, oh, I screwed up.
And we have as many new businesses as people where we fix things, and it's not too late. For most things, we can fix it. Not everything, but most things.
Right. Well, until we have you on again, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
I do. The first thought is, it is business, not personal. If for the women out there who are listening, banish the good girl. You are not being rude or mean to negotiate and stick up for yourself and flip a contract. And for those of you who are of a certain age, it is not too old. You are not too old, and it is not too late. I started my business in my 40s. So,
I love it.
And get it in writing. Just always get it in writing.
So much fun. I love it. I love it. I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a great time talking with Sharon Tasman. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.